Hi, Kris here with MySoil. I wanted to just take a minute to answer a few questions that we get once people complete their first soil test. The two questions that we mainly get are when do we apply the recommended products and how do we apply those products to our garden. So one of the most popular sample timings is pre-plant. This is before any plants have been put into the ground. The season's just getting underway. People are testing their soil. They get their nutrient recommendations back or their pH adjustments, and they want to know, can I apply these products at the same time? How do I apply them? Do I incorporate them? And so today I want to go ahead and show you a couple of these techniques that we use pre-plant in both raised bed gardens as well as native soil gardens. The main technique that we use pre-season in both raised bed gardens and native soil gardens is what we call broadcast applications. This is the method of applying nutrient or pH adjustment products over this whole entire surface area and then coming back and amending those products into the soil. It's a simple process where we can take any kind of application device, whether it be handheld for our raised bed gardens or bigger application devices such as spreaders for our larger native soil gardens. I want to go ahead and show you how we apply this broadcast application to a raised bed garden as well as a native soil garden. It's a pretty simple process where we just take the recommended amount of product, we put it in our applicator so that we know we have the right amount of product to cover the area that we're looking to amend. This can be both pH adjustment products as well as nutrient products that are required for a garden. This is a simple process where we just apply the recommended amount over the surface area of the garden, and we want to ensure that we deliver the proper amount of product over the area of the garden. We simply go until we've delivered the recommended amount over the area evenly, and we want to get this as even as possible so we can go ahead and incorporate that into the root zone. So we've added the recommended rate, we've broadcasted it over the surface of the raised bed garden. So our next step is going to be to go ahead and incorporate this nutrient or pH adjustment products into the soil so that we can get it thoroughly mixed into the root zone. So when we add our plants, they have access to these nutrients and they benefit from any pH adjustments that we've made over the area. So we can use this same application technique in our native soil gardens. So if we soil test pre-plant, we can get our nutrient recommendations as well as pH adjustments. All we need to do is broadcast that nutrient over the area or those pH adjustment products. From here we can go ahead and incorporate that nutrient into the profile as well as our pH adjustment and products. This will ensure you have the most nutrient dense crops with the highest yield. So our second most common sampling time is in season. This is when gardeners typically start to see nutrient deficiencies or issues with their plants that they can't diagnose. A lot of times this leads to a soil sample, which then will lead to a nutrient recommendation or pH adjustment. For in-season adjustments, it can be a little bit tougher, especially with pH. pH is a little bit tougher in season because we can't come in and incorporate that pH adjustment product into the soil profile as well as we can pre-season. But what we can do is we can go ahead and we can broadcast pH adjustment products over the area, or we can do a technique which is called side dress. I'll show you both of those techniques that you can use in season. Typically plants in season may be a little bit taller and bigger, and you may have to come in and do the side dress application. If they're a little bit smaller when we're seeing deficiencies, we can go ahead and do the broadcast over the garden. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like, and hopefully you can implement this in your garden in season if you're seeing nutrient deficiencies. So our first application technique for in-season applications of nutrient and pH adjustment products is simply to go ahead and broadcast like we did in our pre-season applications. This is a very simple technique. Use your applicator and just simply sprinkle over the entirety of the bed. You can go right over the plants as you do this. We want to distribute the recommended rate over the area. Simple technique. A little bit of it might get on the foliage, but most of it will fall off the foliage. The next technique is what we call side dress. Typically when the plants get a little bit bigger, we don't have access to be able to see as much soil area. It gets covered by foliage. So what we want to do is what's called a side dress technique. Sometimes it's a little bit easier technique when we have a lot of foliage. Simply what we do on a side dress technique is we're going to come in between the rows and we're going to simply sprinkle to the side of the plants because there's a lot of foliage over protecting the soil area. So we're going to go to the exposed soil area on the side of the plant, and we're going to simply side dress on both sides of the plants. This is going to ensure we get nutrient down to the rooting area, and it's a very common technique in both commercial agriculture as well as home gardening. Another common application technique for in-season gardens is the use of soluble nutrients in water or liquids as well. So we can always use these this time of year as well. We can simply put the nutrients into the water, solubilize those, mix them up really well, and we can add those to our garden as well. So this is a pretty simple technique where we just come along the side of the plants or get around the plants in that exposed area. It's okay if we get a little bit of the water and nutrient on the plants, but we simply want to distribute that nutrient thoroughly throughout the bed on both sides. If there's more foliage, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get to the soil area, but get as much of that soil area as we can. Again, it's okay if we get water and nutrient on the leaf tissue. Some of that nutrient can be absorbed through the leaves, but we want to try to target the soil area mostly to get that nutrient down to the roots. So just to go ahead and recap our in-season solutions for fertilizer and pH adjustment applications, we have our broadcast application where we simply broadcast the nutrient or pH adjustment product over the whole entire area. We have our side dress technique, which is where we go along the side of the plants to the soil area we can see because most of the area may be covered in foliage. And then we have our liquid or soluble nutrient applications, which we can do with our irrigation injection systems or with our hose end sprayers during the growing season. Most all of these techniques that we've showed you in the raised bed can also be used in larger native soil gardens as well. Kris here with MySoil. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to watch this video. I hope these tips help you grow the best garden this season.